I'm Liz. I'm from Guilford College, class of 2023. Thank you for coming to this panel of the Quaker College Fair Series. This morning, we'll be talking about inclusion and belonging, like what resources are available to support BIPOC students and first generation students. We have some folks from the Haverford College, Swarthmore, and Guilford College. We have Gemma Herrera from Guilford, Windsor Jordan from Swarthmore, and Christina Rose from Haverford. Thank you guys for coming. So if you guys introduce yourself, if you guys have any questions specifically for any panelists, I will direct them with Afroza from PYM. So I was wondering if Gemma Herrera from Guilford College could introduce themselves and explain like their part with the, sorry, give me one second. Like explain their, like how Guilford College helps people that are BIPOC students or first generation college students.
Yeah, for sure. So hi everyone, my name is Gemma Herrera. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am the Associate Director of our Intercultural Engagement Center at Guilford College. I also serve as the Latinx Community Coordinator. And with that, I help also oversee some of the organizations that actually support BIPOC students. So some of those particular would be serving as the advisor for our HUG organization, which is the Hispanos Unidos de Guilford. And then I also help serve as like the overseer of Soy Un Líder, which is a conference, for Latinx students, specifically in college access, giving them the resources available to them prior to matriculating to the college of their choice, particularly Guilford College. And the kind of other add-on to that would be I serve as the I oversee our Multicultural Scholars Leadership Program, and that is MLSP. So it is a scholarship program for students, and pretty much within that space, they're able to kind of have an open and brave space around particular topics that are going on around society, whether that could be, professionalism in the workplace as being a person of color, or how to navigate, professionalism being a Latina woman, microaggressions, gentrification, et cetera, et cetera. So we talk a lot about some of those topics that can be a little bit difficult to have, but we expand a little bit more and engage in those conversations in that space. And that could be pertaining to Guilford specifically, or Greensboro in North Carolina, and or just other social justice issues that are occurring around the world that could be impacting our students. So those are just kind of a few of the ones that I directly oversee. That isn't to say that there aren't other ones as well, because we do have other organizations on campus that are currently actually like revamping and or like gaining a little bit more traction, especially within light of COVID. Those were kind of a few things that unfortunately just I feel like everyone's experiencing. But I know we do have a Pride Club. We are currently actually, myself and another staff member, we're hosting our Lavender graduation that's coming up soon, which is for the LGBTQIA plus community. And so we're having that again, and it hasn't happened in a couple of years because of COVID. So we are bringing that back, and super happy that that is something that we're able to put on this year. We have other organizations as well, such as like our BSU organization, or and this is our organization for, Black/African American students predominantly, but still open to anyone. And that's how ours, how our school works too, with being Quaker. Anyone is still accepted into these organizations. You don't necessarily have to be part, quote unquote, of the community, but you can be an ally or support, an advocate. And so that is something that Guilford definitely strives for. And I see it with our students all the time. We have an international club, and also a staff member that helps oversee that. That's Daniel Diaz. And with that, he helps kind of just see like what specific resources each students need, depending on where they are coming from, whether that is out of our state or out of the country and so forth. So those kind of particular more resources, if y'all are wanting to get to know more of that, I definitely have that contact information too. And I believe we have possibly a few more other things that I can focus on if y'all have any specific questions, but that is kind of the overall gist. As of right now, we are, I also kind of like help oversee our DEI office, so our diversity, equity, inclusion. And so with that, it encompasses a little bit more than some of the things that I just kind of mentioned too. But ultimately, we are looking to see where we're able to support our students even further than where we currently are. And we're just trying to navigate that space with coming back from COVID and being really fully in person. So just to kind of give some context too, I just joined Guilford College in January, so I'm still relatively new, but super excited to be here and very glad that I was able to be a part of this conversation, as I feel like it's very important to be able to acknowledge how our institutions are helping our students feel welcome and also feel supported.
Thank you so much, Gemma. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them later. I would like to introduce the other panelists. Windsor Jordan, the Associate Dean of Admissions and Director of Access and Equity at Swarthmore College. Could you share like a brief intro with us, Windsor?
Sure. Thank you, Liz. And thank you all for joining us this morning, bright and early on a Saturday. I really appreciate you all taking the time to hang out with us a little bit, learn about how our different colleges support students from all different backgrounds. So like Liz said, I'm Windsor Jordan. I'm Associate Dean of Admissions and Director of Access and Equity at Swarthmore College. What that means is I work in the admissions office, and I lead our efforts in the admissions office to connect with, recruit, and then bring to the college students who are low income, students who are first generation, students of color, including Black, Latinx, and Native students, and other students who are traditionally marginalized in the college admissions process. And so part of that work means connecting with programs on our campus, and also connecting with community-based organizations, high schools, and other organizations around the country, talking with and supporting all students on their path to college. But some of the resources we have on our campus, just briefly, Swarthmore is trying to be a place where students can bring their full selves to the campus. And that means we have a Black Cultural Center that houses our African American, Caribbean, and African student groups. We have an Intercultural Center that houses like 22 different student groups, including our Latinx student group, our Indigenous Student Association, Muslim Student Association. Again, there's like 22 different student groups in that space. Women's Resource Center houses some of our women's groups on campus, a space where students can go. And all these places are places where students can go and find folks who share their experience on our campus. One thing that's really, really important about my experience in finding a college was going to colleges and asking them, where are the folks on your campus who look like me? And we share my experience as an African-American male from the Southeast, and what's their experience like? And so part of having these type of centers is a space where students can go and find folks who share their experience, find that sense of belonging if they're coming to our campus. Some other resources that we have quickly is our first generation low income student office. So students who are first generation are folks who are first in their family to attend a four-year college. That's how we define it at Swarthmore College. So students who are coming to our campus, or first generation, will find a family fellowship there. That first generation student office includes students who are first in their family to attend a four-year college. It also includes staff members and faculty members at Swarthmore who are first generation to college as well. So that's a brief overview. I can see a whole lot more. If you're not familiar with Swarthmore, we are located right outside of Philadelphia, 11 miles southwest of the city of Philadelphia. Small liberal arts college, 1,600 students are on our campus. Pass it on to the next panelist.
Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat as well. I would like to introduce Christina Rose, the director of Haverford's John P. Chessie Scholars Program. Could you give an intro to what you do at Haverford, please?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Christina Rose. I work at Haverford College, which is part of the Tri-College Consortium with Swarthmore and Bryn Mawr. So we're all kind of right nearby. There's transportation that goes between the three of them. So we are also right outside Philadelphia. I am the director of the Chessie Scholars Program, which is our program for first-gen low-income students. So similar to, as Windsor was explaining, students who are the first in their families to earn a U.S. bachelor's degree is how we define first gen at our campus. So we also include international students, even if their parents have gone to college in another country. doing the US bachelor's degree system is very different. So we include that, and students who are considered low income, which is an estimated family contribution of under $7,500. That's how we define it. Students are also able to self-select in if they feel like they are, if they don't fit our strict guidelines, but they feel like they are part of the community. So a lot of our students are BIPOC students. So we do a lot of work also with our cultural centers. We have an OMA, the Office of Multicultural Affairs, which kind of oversees all the different cultural houses. We have a Black Student League. We have an LCC, the Latinx Cultural Center, and then tons and tons of clubs and different organizations that are mainly student run that have lots of great activities all over campus. What we do in the CHISC Scholars Office is kind of a combination of introduction to college and helping with the transition to college. So we have a 5-day pre-orientation program where all of our FLY students are welcome to join. And it's really just an awesome time for students to meet each other, form a community, but also get to know the campus. We introduce them to faculty. We do some academic workshops. We do some social stuff. We go into Philly. We do some community service locally. We take them on tours all around the area and on the campus. It's really a wonderful time for them to get to know each other and get to know the college. And then from there, we kind of carry on with them. They're all matched with faculty mentors that they have for the first 2 years. We do tons of academic programming and programming with different offices like our Career and Professional Development Center, our Office of Academic Resources, the Writing Center. We're always working with other offices on campus to support our students. And we just do a ton of fun stuff also. So tomorrow we're having a pottery painting party locally, and just, a place to chill, kind of, finals are coming up. Let's just like sit and paint and catch our breath and really have some fellowship with fellow CHISC scholars. So yeah, that's basically what we do. I'm happy to go into more detail if there are questions.
Thank you so much, Christina. Gemma said something in the chat that she forgot to mention. At Guilford College, we also have our African Student Association and a mentorship program named Brothers Doing Positive, which we are able to reignite again this past semester for the support for males specifically. Just for you guys to know that. But I would really just like to open up conversation from the audience and the panelists. For the 3 of you that are here, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat. If not, I have other questions that we can definitely talk about. Okay, so I would like to ask each of you, like, you guys talked about how you guys have affinity groups within like current students. I was wondering if you had any like with alumni students, like with your alumni, if there are any like mentorship between current students and alumni. Does that make sense? Sorry. But I was wondering if I could ask Windsor that first, if there's like alumni network that were part of the affinity groups.
Yeah, so there are a few actually. So we like Liz saying, we all have these cultural centers on our campuses that are a place where students can go again and go find folks who share their experiences. We have mirrored groups in the alumni network at the college as well. So here at Swarthmore, we have few different organizations that have come about, I think, in the last 10 years or so. Swarthmore Black Alumni Network is our network for folks who identify as African descent alumni, and they do a number of different events. They support mentorship through funding for students on campus. So it's summer internships and mentorship opportunities in summertime. They also host events for alumni. They had a couple events in Washington, D.C. and Atlanta and California prior to the event where alumni are coming together to go visit art museum together or go hear from a speaker or a lecturer or a performance together in different cities around the country. Those things are starting back up again. We also have an alumni of color group as well that holds similar opportunities for fellowship among alumni in the LGBTQ alumni network as well for those folks in that community. And they hold events to bring alumni together and also we'll bring speakers to campus for current students as well. So I think those alumni networks really kind of help different alumni stay connected to the college, connected to each other, but also often reach back to support current students as well.
Thank you. How about at Haverford College, Christina?
Yeah, we have similar groups. I think the largest one is called the Multicultural Alumni Action Group, so MAG. And we actually do a lot of programming, joint programming with them. So once a semester, we have a panel with our CHISC scholars and MAG alumni who want to come back. We have alumni from, 5 years ago all the way to, I think, around 40 years ago. Some really, really amazingly impressive people who have gone on to do amazing things. And they talk to our students about their pathways, about their time at Haverford, how they, networked and made their way up after Haverford. And we don't have a formal mentoring program, but a lot of those alumni actually do serve as informal mentors. They're so generous with their time, and they're always just like, here's my email address, contact me. I have internships over the summer, come work for me over the summer, and let's form a relationship. So it's really a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much. How about at Guilford College, Gemma?
Yeah, so the ones that I definitely am for sure of, we have our Black alumni group. And so I don't directly oversee it, but I am in close connection with the group. And we actually are having our Black Alumni Weekend, which will be April 22nd through the 24th. They also were able to establish and maintain a scholarship opportunity for our students. And so they're able to actually award those students during that weekend. So we're super excited about that. Our Latinx alumni group, we are currently trying to establish like a core like list. And so I think prior to my time at Guilford, it was in the works. And I think COVID just kind of happened. And, that unfortunately just kind of took a minor toll on that. But we are working very eagerly to make sure we have those connections, just because we know our alumni are still very much so engaged with us. We just are working to get that a little bit squared away. And unfortunately, I know I don't have like too much information on that, but I think it's just with the time that I have just joined Guilford in January. So those are the two that I definitely can think of at the top of my head.
Thank you. Also, I can speak a little bit on that as a Guilford College student. I can definitely agree that COVID messed a lot of things up in our just logistics and probably like events for other colleges as well. But I know that Bonner alumni as well are very involved with current students and like their besties. I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that, but yeah. But the alumni network is really strong at Guilford towards mentoring the students, current students. Any other questions from the participants or people watching?
So I have a question for the panelists. Do you guys have any resources for undocumented students who may be interested in attending your colleges? I know that some of the schools around the country are now really paying attention to that, along with their concerns for BIPOC and first-gen students. So what are some things some of these Quaker colleges are doing for undocumented kids?
Yeah, so I can definitely speak on that. So I actually just recently, in North Carolina specifically, I was able to attend a previous connection that I had with one of the organizations I was involved, which is Latinx Ed. And so they have, it's called Consejos College y Consejos, which is just a conversation starter that we had, and the Dream.us was actually there. So we are actually in conversation with the Dream.us as of right now. Nothing is set in stone, but we are in the process of hopefully becoming a partner school. And so for those of you who don't know, the Dream.us actively supports and helps mitigate the cost for undocumented and DACA students. And so as of right now, the only other school in North Carolina is actually Wingate that has a partnership with the Dream.us. And they recently just partnered this past year, but we are looking to expand and have that for our Guilford students too, just because we do strive ourselves in that. And being a previous college advisor, I remember Guilford being one of those schools that was very much so undocumented / DACA friendly. And so we're currently looking at specific avenues to see for the possibility of that being like sooner rather than later. And so those are ongoing conversations that myself, as well as our Dean of Students, Steve McCreaney, we're currently having to make that a possibility, but also a reality for our students. Aside from that, we do have other support outside of that in the form of scholarships. So as you may know, for undocumented and DACA students, they're only able to really receive aid through the form of a scholarship. So luckily, with some of the things I help oversee and also some donors, we are able to kind of like work around how those scholarships are given. So for example, some of my students, if they're helping me over the summer, unfortunately, they're not able to get a stipend of some sort because they're not able to because of their, unfortunately, documentation status, and also more so the kind of the HR policies. So we have been able to strongly advocate for the students and see, like, if donors or anyone that is able to assist students in that capacity, as long as there's no stipulations, we're able to provide that in a form of a stipend. So really advocating for our students and seeing like, okay, how are we able to support currently right now, aside, from the conversations that we are having ongoing with the Dream.us. So I would definitely say that that's one of our bigger like missions. And I know that that's a strong need specifically in North Carolina because that's just a point of concern. So that is something that we are actively doing currently at Guilford, along with a few other efforts, but that's probably like a really main one right now.
Yeah, similarly at Haverford, we actually just attended, a colleague and I just attended a conference at Swarthmore, which was run by the Dream.us, all about supporting undocumented students. So it is a real big area of focus right now for us. And we actually just yesterday had a meeting about creating these summer opportunities for undocumented students, just as you were saying, Gemma, allowing them to get a stipend rather than get paid, and trying to work around, how can we give undocumented students the same opportunities that our documented students have for that experiential learning, doing internships, doing, earning money because they can't do work study throughout the semester as well. So how can we kind of find ways that we can still allow them to, fully enjoy all of the benefits of the college? So we're really working on that as well. And I'm very excited. Next week, I already am meeting with 5 students to talk about this summer opportunity for the stipend. Oh, and one other thing, in partnership with Bryn Mawr, we actually have an undocumented, we call it Undocu Plus. So it's undocumented students, DACA students, and mixed status family students, right? So they may be documented, but their parents are not, or, some kind of mix like that. So we actually have a support group that's run by a woman from the counseling center at Bryn Mawr and the associate dean for belonging and undocumented students at Bryn Mawr. So we've been able to join our 2 campuses because we're so close, and they actually have a once a week support group for those students, which has been really, really amazing.
I'll talk about this.
Yes. Hi.
Go ahead, Auntie.
Sorry. I have my daughter. She's interested in going to abroad outside the US for college. And I was wondering if you guys have any school that have the program you guys have outside the US?
I'll jump in here and answer both questions here. First, starting with your question, Antine, and thank you for the question. So we do have abroad programs at Swarthmore College. About half our student body will go abroad during their time at Swarthmore but anywhere in the world they want to go, as long as it's safe to travel there. So students go abroad to study languages, they go abroad to maybe to do research at a university or college abroad. They go abroad to work with non-governmental organizations or nonprofits abroad. There's all different types of ways students will go abroad at Swarthmore. I think the really special thing is that your financial aid travels with you when you go abroad at Swarthmore. So you're not paying any extra money to go abroad just because you're not on campus. You're in Ghana, you're in France, you're in London. You're not paying any extra money because you're away. So your financial aid does travel with you. For this question regarding undocumented students quickly, we also have an abroad program for our undocumented students on our campus as well. They can't travel abroad, but we still want them to give a chance to go away, and so they travel to Hawaii for their abroad experience as undocumented students. And in terms of the admissions portion of how we think about undocumented students, we do read undocumented and DACA students who apply to Swarthmore just like we read any domestic student who applies to Swarthmore. And we do offer need-based loan-free financial aid to admitted undocumented students or DACA students, just like we would any other domestic student who applies to the college. We also have an undocumented student organization on our campus. It's housed inside the Intercultural Center, so students can come together and find a fellowship. We also support students that are undocumented with funds on campus as well, so they can have opportunities to work and things like that too. So I think part of supporting students who are undocumented on our campus is also supporting them for legal things. So oftentimes students have to re-up their DACA status or have other legal issues and troubles they have to navigate. So we work with partners here in Philadelphia to make sure those students get supported in those ways as they're moving through the college as well.
Yeah, at Haverford, we have the same study abroad program pretty much as Swarthmore. Your financial aid does continue with you. There are sometimes extra costs in terms of maybe getting a passport if a student doesn't already have a passport, getting a visa, depending on what country they're going to. So we do have, through my office, we have something that's like an emergency fund or an opportunity fund. So both of them are kind of housed under the same thing. For our low-income students, if they can't take on those additional costs, we will fund those as well. So that there are no barriers to taking part in the study abroad opportunities.
Yeah, I would definitely say for Guilford, we also have that as well. Now, if you're looking for a specific program, that could be like a different conversation as well. I know our direct person, we have like a specific advisor at Guilford College. Ours is Daniel Diaz. And it's very similar to kind of like what Windsor and Christina mentioned as far as how that kind of works for our current students, our international students, and like undocumented DACA students as well. But I'm also providing that information if you would like a specific contact person too for that. But we're very adamant of having our students be able to experience those things while also not feeling like they have to take extra money out or things of that nature. So we do have our students have the ability to do that while they are taking courses. I know something that we're in the works is actually establishing for one of the scholars program I oversee, having the possibility of our students go during our 3-week courses. And so Guilford College has the model of 2 12 weeks or 1 12-week per semester and then 1 3-week program. So it is a little bit more intensive. And so with that, we are trying to see if we can find a way to construct something around the 3-week model while also making sure students are able to have those abroad opportunities, but also their tuition and fees and so forth are incorporated already in there. So those are added extra information, but I also wouldn't put that information in the chat if you want to speak to like the direct advisor for our institution.
Thank you so much for all that information. Another question that we have is what resources are available for first gen students, especially in the application process? Would you like to answer that, Christina, for Haverford?
Sure. In the application process, that's a good question, actually. I know that we do have a few programs specifically for underrepresented students. So in the fall, we have a program called Have a Look, where students who are, I believe it's sophomores and juniors, can come to campus. It's a fly-in program, so we provide financial assistance for students to get to campus. It's a weekend, and I do believe that they do have some workshops on the application, but it's also a chance to get to know the campus. You stay in the dorms with another student who volunteers to house you, and you kind of go around to classes with them. And then in the spring, we have a similar one called the Fly In Squirrels, because we are the Haverford Black Squirrels as our mascots. So the Fly In Squirrels program is for admitted students. That's coming up in April. So again, it's the same thing where they come to campus, they get to stay in the dorms with students and go to classes and really just get to know the campus and see if it's the right fit. So yes, we also have, through my office, we have what we call Fly SLs. There are our Fly first gen low income student leaders. And they do a lot of outreach to prospective students as well, and answer a lot of questions. We do have some Zoom sessions like this where as students are thinking of applying, they can really just ask candidly to our students. So we don't so much run those, we don't so much stay in there in those sessions because it gives them an opportunity to really ask the real questions kind of off the record.
Thank you. Windsor, would you like to answer that question as well?
Sure. So there's a lot of resources for first generation students once they get on campus, and we try to remove some of the barriers in the process as well as students are coming to know Swarthmore. So we also have a fly-in program called Discover Swarthmore. I'll put a link to that in the chat here for folks. And the fly-in program is similar to what Christina said. Ours is held in the fall. We'll fly you out from wherever you are in the country to come visit Swarthmore for a couple of days for overnight stay. Those programs usually happen in September and October. It's called Discover Swarthmore. And that program is geared to any student, or for any student, but really geared towards first generation, low income students, students of color, and again, students marginalized in the application process. So that program is applications opened on April 1. It'll be due July 7th. So you have juniors, current high school juniors who'll be seniors in the fall in your life. That's a great program to apply to get to know Swarthmore a little bit better. We also want to lower the barrier for the cost of applying to college here as well. So we have, if you go to swatpass.swarthmore.edu and fill out a couple questions for us, we'll waive your application fee, and that includes first generation to college students. We want to again lower that barrier for admission as well. And just to give you some context, about 33% of the students we admitted to this year's class, the class of 2026, are first generation to college students. We also have lots of college partners around the country that work with first generation students and other students who are marginalized in the process. So about 35% of our students we admitted this past year, or just this year, are coming to us via community-based organizations. There's national ones like Westbridge. There's local ones like Chicago Scholars or College Match or College Track around the country doing this work, and so we partner with them as well. So part of our goal is bringing first generation students to our campus, and then also making sure they're supported once they're on campus. That's why we have the first generation low income student office who gathers those students for opportunities for fellowship, making sure they're connected to the career service office, making sure they have access to things like our student emergency fund in case something happens and they need to get support, a flight back home if they can't afford it because somebody's sick back home, That's what that fund is for. Our textbook affordability program. Every student on our campus gets $750 towards textbooks during the semester, during the year. Also getting lowering the barriers and as you're applying to college and trying to lower the barriers once you get on campus as well.
I would also add on for Guilford College specifically, we have a few different ways that we help our first generation college students. And so some of those can be just as simple as like where our application is accessed through. So we have different platforms. We have 3 different ones. One is housed on our Guilford kind of like college website. And then the other one is the common application, which is something that, you know, other institutions also use. And so I think as previously serving as a college advisor, that was a difficult task for a lot of first generation college students, just not knowing where to apply, where to actually submit their application, what the process of it entailed, what platform worked best for them. And so I'm glad to say, like, you know, we are able to provide that. We also are housed under our CFNC, which is College Foundation of North Carolina. And we participate in the college application week where the fee for our application for sure is waived during that time. And that takes place during college application month, which is typically within the October through November timeline period. Another thing that we provide is also like our open houses for our juniors. And so we actually have one coming up. I believe it may have passed or it could be in the next week or so. And that's for our juniors that are current high school juniors are able to talk to their admissions counselors specifically, kind of in a form of an open house. So just kind of being able to expose students right before their senior year. I know another way too that we are supporting our first generation college students, or just in general, all students too, is we're piloting this year the GC Rise program, which is Guilford College Rise, which is a pre-college program that I'm fortunate and very honored to actually be serving as a program director. So it's for rising high school seniors, and they would be able to take a course at Guilford College and get credit for it. And it would be transferable, definitely, you know, at Guilford College, but transferable upon the institution itself. And the other kind of added program to that would be our early college partnership that we do have. And so for that, that's a huge resource for our students, just because that does alleviate some of the financial like kind of struggles for our undocumented and DACA students. And previously helping in our dual enrollment programs at a neighboring institution, I was able to learn like kind of the barriers with that alone. And so a lot of our students that are sometimes first generation college students, and depending on their documentation status, they take very much so benefit in that, because at that point, the price tag isn't as daunting and the process isn't the same as like, you know, just applying as a regular first year or second year at our institution or any other institutions at that as well. So I would say that those are some of the few ways that Guilford College definitely is supporting, but we are always looking to expand and see how else we can assist our first generation college students after they get to campus as well. And I'll also provide the link to our GC Rise program. That way y'all can kind of learn a little bit more about that as well.
If I can jump in just one more, I was adding something in the chat that I think is really helpful too. So you've heard us mention fly-in programs or come to our campus programs. And I wanted to share a list that College Greenlight, which is an organization that works with community-based relations around the country. And they collect a list of flying-in programs at colleges around the country. So if you're a person here that's like, I don't know if I can afford a trip to send my student to go see a college, or I can't afford time off work to go take my student around to see different colleges, College Greenlight creates this list, usually houses about 80 different colleges around the country that have fly-in programs, where like ours at Herrera-Gulford, at Swarthmore. We'll fly out for free to come see our campuses. So this list that I shared includes 80 or more different colleges that do that around the country. So if you can't afford a trip to a college, if your student's like, I want to go to this school, but I can't afford a plane ticket, these colleges on this list will have travel vouchers and other ways that you can get to the campus for free.
Thank you so much. Before we end with our last question for the panelists, I want to say thank you again for being here and providing your time to us on a Saturday morning. This has been really helpful, and we're recording it. It will go up on the PYM website and will be available on the PYM YouTube channel so other students can look at it and hear about all these amazing opportunities. There was a question from NK, and it's actually a really important question, so we'll end on that note. It's what are the counseling and mental health support and resources available to BIPOC, first-gen, undocumented students at your institutions?
Yeah, I can definitely speak on that. So I know for ours, we're very strong on like just making sure our students' mental health are being a priority. So I know another part to that is also representation in the team that we do have and how comfortable our students do feel in approaching, mental health services. As someone that is a person of color and first gen, that was something that was very daunting to me, going to a PWI at Carolina specifically. So that process, just kind of taking that into perspective and then also being able to see how Guilford supports that is something that I honestly am very, I take a lot of pride in. So one of our mental health counselors is Talisha Bowen, and she does a very great job in making sure students, specifically students of color, feel supported. And she's always readily available all the time. And the students definitely see that, and they have definitely appreciated that. We have a larger team as well too. And overall, we have been trying to just see where we can also meet not only the students' needs, but their wants, just because in light of us transitioning from remote learning, coming back to campus, that engagement piece on top of the stresses that a lot of our students faced is one of our top priorities. So I know that some other things that they do as well is like making sure they table and that they have specific things in the equivalent of our union, which is our founders hall. That way we can really get to know and see like what our students are really actually needing. I actually will provide that for y'all in the chat as well. But I did want to kind of express how Guilford currently does that. And we're fortunate enough that we get like weekly updates as far as, if a student is expressing a concern, they are immediately referred over to Talisha's team and they are immediately contacted. That way we can help the student very quickly rather than waiting for a response and so forth. But yeah, I would say that's how Guilford is currently doing that.
Yeah, at Haverford, we have CAPS, which is Counseling and Psychological Services. It is free. That's one thing that I stress to students, and I really encourage them to take advantage of it because once they leave college, it will not be free. And a lot of our students have not used mental health counseling before, and so it can be a little daunting. It can be a little scary. We do in some of our workshops, we talk to students about what it means to maybe go to counseling, even if your family is kind of against it, and how it can be helpful and how that it shouldn't be a stigma. So our counseling center is available to all students for free. We do have a diverse team of counselors and psychiatrists there. But one thing, because of COVID, I think they have been really inundated. So one thing that they've done is really helping students if they can't find an appointment on our campus or if they can't find the right match, because we also tell our students, like, sometimes you have to try out different counselors, right? You may not feel comfortable with the first one that you go to. So if they can't find the right match, the counseling center will help them find someone off campus who is covered by their insurance and kind of create that bridge so that students can go to someone else within walking distance of the college right nearby.
And we have a similar program at Swarthmore, like Haverford. CAPS is the same acronym we use, Counseling and Psychological Services. And they also offer free services to students as well. One of the conversations we've been having on our campus for the last, I've been at Swarthmore now for 8 years working. We've had this conversation a lot in the last 8 years before COVID about mental health and how we think about health and wellness on our campus, not only providing mental health resources, but also having conversations of what failure looks like. And if that failure is okay and failure is part of success, right? I think all our campuses are intense academic places. And so students not only need a space they can talk through things that are going on at home or going on at their lives at our colleges, but also need to think through when challenge happens, what do you do and how do you manage that? So our CAP service is a part of that. Student organizations like Speak to Swatties. Swatties are what we call Swarthmore students. And so Speak to Swatties is a student organization providing a space for students to talk to students about challenges or issues they're having on campus as well. And then, all our campuses likely have our resident advisors and other folks that are in the dorms that can help point students to different resources as well. Like Christina said, sometimes if you haven't used those services before or don't know how to approach folks about asking for those services, sometimes going to a peer is the first place to start to say, hey, how do I navigate this? And they can point you to the resources as well. So having those folks in our dorms, like resident advisors, diversity peer advisors, student academic mentors, these are all student positions in our dorm that students can go to get directed to those services, as well as the folks who work in our dean's office who think about community on a regular basis as well. So I think it really is important that students are made aware of all the resources they have around mental health and wellness. And on our campus, it includes those mental health resources, but also includes things like yoga classes and Pilates classes and meditation courses, things to help students in those kind of wellness in mind, wellness in body ways as well.
Thank you guys so much for participating and answering the questions that we have had and just your time. We would like to end in a moment of silence, or if you guys have anything else, information you can put in the chat for later. And just thank you so much.